Okay, so this video is going to be an answer to a comment that I had on a video. We'll see if I can be technologically progressive enough to figure out how to do that, to link these two somehow. Anyway, so basically it was a gal, and she has an Anatolian that she had from babyhood. And he's like a year old, and then at that time she brought in a 7-month-old Anatolian puppy. Both males, both intact. Everything was going good, and now she's having some resource guarding issues. And the question is, what do I do, and how do I address this going forward? And she said, basically, I'm assuming it's just going to increase with intensity. And yes, it will continue to increase, mount with age and time. So I would say that what you're seeing here is probably a pretty classic case of like a littermate syndrome. Again, that's a situation that I personally believe exists. Some people swear that it's not a thing, that it doesn't exist. I think it does because I've seen it time and time again. And it's kind of a misnomer because you hear littermate syndrome, so automatically you think, well, they have to be littermates, and they don't have to be littermates at all. They just have to be similar in age. It doesn't matter sex. It doesn't matter if they're from the same litter, if they're technically related or not. It's just an age thing is all it is. And so when you have two dogs that are very close in age like that, 7 months and 12 months, that's pretty close. It's starting to kind of get to that where maybe not so much, but I mean, that's still, you have two that are adolescents. And she said, going into their adolescence, closer to when they're two, she's like, might get a little dicey, basically. And yes, it will continue to get a little bit dicey. So what do you do? So what I would recommend doing, you can't go backwards and like unget both dogs, right? So you have both of them, you took them both in, so now you have them. So now you have to do your due diligence and try to handle the situation, which means putting in twice the effort to create two really great dogs. And not only is it twice the effort just because you have two dogs, but you have to really try to combat this littermate syndrome thing that's going on. So that means separating them frequently, often, and work with them independently. So each of them work on the basics of leash training. And I like to call Anatolians like they're like slugs on the leash, until they finally figure it out. They just like to, as soon as they feel a little bit of resistance on that leash, they're like, oh my God. And they just like roll over like slugs and try to drag them along, and they're going to protest the entire way. So, yeah, so litter train. Don't litter train anybody. Leash train them independently, work them in different areas, different pastures, different whatever, as much as possible. Get them away from each other. Otherwise, they're going to just like gang up with each other and try to take over the world until they don't. And it's kind of like a brother, sister, family, sibling dynamic, right? Like, nobody else better pick on my brother, or nobody else better pick on my sister except for me. Like, you can beat the heck out of your siblings, but nobody else can. That's kind of like what you see. So she said they're already like working together against predation and stuff, which is great, and you'll see that. But then in other times when you're trying to feed and whatever, you'll see that resource guarding pop up. So feed them separately is what I recommend, and work with them separately and independently. Take them for walks, take them, both of them, out and about, and continue socializing and continue working with them, but independently of each other. They'll come together in a pack. You don't have to teach that, but you have to teach them confidence alone and not together, because a lot of times people will see that resource guarding and they think it's aggression because it looks like aggression. There's snarling, there's biting, all out brawls and fights will happen over it, and they can get nasty. But it's usually not a source of anger. It's from a source of insecurity. Like, if I don't hover over this, and if I don't guard it and protect it and like try to inhale it all right away. Somebody else might get it, and then I'm going to be hungry. And what's going to happen? Then I can't eat anymore. And then it's like releasing this entire, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Kind of like a kid, if you grew up without food, you may end up having to, like, you may end up finding yourself like hoarding it and trying to like stuff away, and it's like survival mode. So just a lot of survive. I can't think, guys, it's late at night, it's been a day. So just a lot of independent work, really just try to support them, make confident dogs out of them, work with them independently of each other. And, you know, they can still come together and work together and stuff, but just make sure that you're taking time independently as well. So that's where I would start. See if you notice an improvement, and just day at a time, day at a time, day at a time. It's going to get thicker before it gets better. You know, you're going to go through the thick of it as they get into the adolescence, and there's going to be times you're like, why did I do this? And you'll probably think twice next time before getting two around the same age, because it's a lot, but you'll get there. And if you have any questions more, just drop them below and I'll help in any way that I can.